Here, this last,
What is it?
What's,
the minutes last meeting.
oh, we're not to there yet,
All
right?
right,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Oh.
consent. This is where we would do it.
Okay, yeah, but we just approved the agenda, we're on the agenda, right?
The consent agenda includes the
all.
agenda,
Oh,
previous meeting minutes, and.
oh, one motion, okay. Minutes aren't right?
What's wrong with you?
What's missing?
it was,
May I speak?
yeah,
No,
Not while the motion's on.
not all the motions on the table and it's not.
It's in regard to minutes.
Well, I would say let's let Randy.
Yeah, you're on the table, Randy.
it's the part of where, give the money back and approve I made the motion to give that money back, and after quite a bit of consideration and talk, everybody here was for give the money back, or give the money to them to use for a short term. Because without that, we're not gonna have an ambulance service in Swea City.
And that's not in the minutes?
No,
No, it's not, because there wasn't a motion to that effect. Council spoke and council was in agreement that they would move forward with the agreement, but there was not a motion to approve the agreement.
There was a vote.
There was not.
There's 5 copies.
I believe there was an agreement to transfer the money. There
right,
was never an agreement to sign the agreement at that time.
No, we never voted to sign that agreement because it had to go through attorneys.
right. But we approved the,
We agreed that we would,
Transferred.
that
we were transferring the money. We all agreed to that
And-
100%.
we agreed to transfer the other stuff to upon approval of their city attorney.
Right. I didn't see that until they came through it for 6/11.
Tonight?
Yeah. And I'm sure, Kyle, you're probably aware that information presented to council should actually come 24 hours ahead of time. You know that,
Is that in a policy online?
that's how it is. Items, you can ask the attorney. Items do not get presented unless they're included 24 hours ahead of time.
What section of law are you referring to?
What section of law is it? You can ask the attorney. I'm just saying that I don't know all the sections of law that was met. It's been an issue before. So
I guess
it's more, and it's often more beneficial if it comes the day before, so they can see it in the packet and have time to review it.
Sure, it's probably about 19 minutes before the meeting starts.
No. I really, well, it's actually not for your consideration because it wasn't presented 24 hours prior.
You can review if, I mean, obviously an issue with my minutes, so I can review, I can go through and, go through my notes again and make sure that I have them correct. If I do not have them correct, I can amend them and have them
Hold up.
republished.
No. I'd like you to identify, Randy, specifically what it is that you disagree with in the minutes.
Just did.
Okay, so what you disagree with is, did you understand that that we agreed to sign the big agreement?
Right, and give them the money except what the pay, where it's gonna withhold the payroll.
Right.
But otherwise, the rest of the money was gonna go towards helping it get started.
Right.
Until a later time. And it isn't what the
And
minutes.
that was a discussion point. It was a general consensus, I believe, that the fund balance would transfer to the county after all debts and bills are paid for the ambulance. So, for example, we've got a little over $7,000 payroll tonight. Next month, we will have final payroll for ambulance for the month of June, because tonight's pay is only through May 30th. We've spoken to Kristen. She said she's gonna get that to us as soon as she can after the first of the month. And we'll get that approved and closed out then at the next council meeting. So, in addition, there are going to be bills coming through that won't get paid until the next council meeting that ambulance will be responsible for. Those will need to be paid also.
I guess we're not to that point yet. You're just talking about, you thought there was a motion on the table that
There was, I made it. And everybody sitting here, including her, said that they wasn't gonna vote for that. But after sitting here listening to the discussion, you decided to.
what I understand our vote was for, that we would give them the money after we agreed on the agreement. That's what I understand.
I don't think there was a second on that motion, was there?
I know we voted, 100% right, you're right there. But I don't think we voted on that motion. We voted on giving them the money. That we'd all agree to give them the money once we agreed on the agreement. I'm 100% on giving them the money.
I know we talked about it, but I don't remember actually
And
voting.
and I could be wrong too. I'm not saying,
You did vote on tabling it until after it came back from the attorney. You talked, which I do have noted in my meeting minutes, that you discussed it. A couple of you had noted you were initially not in favor, but I noticed upon considering, and it's right there, that you considered the ambulance input, knowing we need the ambulance, and learning that the money was guaranteed to come back, that you were in agreement. But there was, it needed to go.
and we
to the
agreed.
attorney for
Yeah.
review before it was officially.
This is what I wrote down, said table it and consensus to give the money. That's my note on that. This one. That's what we voted on, table it, and the consensus was to give the money.
Ambulance people, what would? Kristen, what did we say?
Basically, they were consenting.
Well, that's my vote on that. No,
To not approve the consent agenda,
right.
to not approve the amendment. So the motion is still on the table.
Before we go any further, I just want to clarify, is there, if there's more direction that something different or action that you want me to take, I need to know that.
Yeah,
Kind of awesome.
Yeah,
I don't think there is further action.
If what I'm saying is if you're wanting us to review further, go through my handwritten notes and review further and verify, then make it, and if necessary, if you wanna, you can approve the consent. I don't know what you wanna do. I just need to know if there's something different you want to do.
Well, we recorded the message, right? Right. So it should be all there.
Correct.
do we need to all listen to it, or do we have a committee listen to it, or what do we want?
That's up to you guys.
I don't know,
I don't know what you want to do. That's why.
what do you want to do, Randy? Want to listen to the tape recording right now, or?
Yeah, we can. That's why these people are here.
You're gonna,
Keep in mind, that was a 3-hour meeting.
It's until 3 hours.
I just want to get clarified that that's what that was about. And I want to know why it wasn't put in the minutes that way.
Well.
Well, we can't do this. And
Kind of, you can approve the consent agenda without the meeting minutes.
okay,
Minutes could be reviewed and amended, and then you could approve the meeting minutes at the next council meeting. That's one or whatever, you can do whatever you want to do.
Well, I suspect we're gonna end up in a special meeting anyway.
Yeah, hopefully,
About next week. So.
hopefully, that would be nice. I'm like,
So motions of, I believe, if I may. Modify your motion a little bit, Randy. In that. Requesting a motion to approve the consent agenda. Absent of last month's meeting minutes. To be reviewed at a later date.
very limited.
Oh, okay.
you agree to that? All right. You and I can sit down and listen to it.
All in favor?
There, my second.
Awesome.
Oh, there's some. Oh. I've never had that come up. Okay. So on with the visitors. You got a notebook?
I didn't know if anybody was here.
I didn't have any.
Anything other than was on the agenda. I didn't think so.
Is anybody here to discuss anything other than what's on the agenda? All right.
Would this be the time to reference my email and document that in the minutes or?
Yeah. You can't address it, but we can document that we received it.
Okay, that works.
Everything here somewhere.
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, there you are.
You
Okay.
ready for me?
Library, yep.
Okay, Swea City Library Board, we met on June 14th. All members were present along with, our librarian, Yvonne Fokine. She presented her librarian report. There were 165 volunteer hours. Average daily visits were 12. We had our first, summer reading program on June 14th. It was Find Your Voice, and then, basically it was through music. And so we had Paige Lane come, and we had 15 kids, and it was a good day. They were noisy and fun, and it was enjoyable.
Did they use the paper like bean thing that I?
Yep, they did. They were very noisy. Parents were thanking us. I think the ladies gave them kazoos as they went out the door, and parents were, emailing me and texting me all night, and I said it wasn't me. I did everything else but the kazoos. So, they had a good time. Our next, library program is next Wednesday, and, I'm actually doing it. It's a storytelling unit, and so they're also doing, writing along with it. And so hopefully we'll have a good turnout for that. And then, we just kind of noted that Joe and Kelsey will be driving their golf cart in the Fun Days Parade, where they'll be handing out some books. And then, Kelsey had reported, I don't know, a couple of months ago when some of the shingles had come off of the roof. And when we were going by to look at this bush, which they have cut down, like not cut down, but they've trimmed it. We're gonna see what it does, and then they'll make a decision on this bush thing.
Oh, okay.
That they all were worried about.
Yeah.
So while we were looking at the bush, we noticed there's some buckling in the roof of the library. And so Kelsey had reported that the guys had looked at it, it was okay, but I didn't know if somebody could look at it since, like I said, if you look up from the bush up on the roof, you'll kind of see where
On the
that's peeking.
front side or
On the
the
front.
back side?
And there's, yeah, I think I'm worried about the roof. I don't know if anybody else said where as pretty as I am, but.
I remember it being brought up that some shingles were missing and we got those replaced. but-
Yeah, but now, like I said, there's like, if you go and you look, you'll actually see like, kind of like peaks of it, or,
Alright. We'll take a look at
The
it.
sheeting actually underneath it is what's buckled. The sheeting, I think underneath is failing. And it's at the seam, it's buckled up and
I was gonna say the clips or the actual.
it's at the joint. I'm thinking it's at the joint where the two shingles meet together and it's peaked up. That's right above where that bush is that they're talking about. It was, I think it's something that just happened, but it's pretty obvious that.
yeah, I didn't notice it until we went and looked at the bush, but I don't look at the roof very often.
Yeah.
so.
Things are kind of crazy this week with fun days, but.
Yep, totally understand that.
Okay, look at it.
I just want to note it in case.
Yep, appreciate it.
That's it for us.
You guys heard anything, have you talked to Jimmy?
Jimmy's been in there working, he's got the one side done, or part of it done, but it's not completely done, like I think I don't know, cause he's doing, isn't it two?
Yeah.
Type units?
Yeah.
He's got one, I think, finished or almost finished, but I don't think the library part is done.
Okay.
I think he said we had to move that big card catalog thing out. It would be beneficial to move that out of that
Storeroom, that's stuff?
store.
Yeah, and Dave
Because you
and
can't get
Joe,
around in there.
Okay.
Dave and Joe are going to do that.
Oh,
So,
are they? Okay.
yeah,
Are they taking it to the dump?
I don't know.
oh, I don't know,
Oh,
card catalog.
that's a big mag. Oh, that great big monster with all the drawers.
I'll take
I was thinking the catalog newspaper kind of thing, but. Yeah, I understand that. It is very old, but. They might put that up. For a donation, if somebody wants it. People collect that stuff, so. Okay. Get this water. I'm gonna take 2 seconds to get that flask of water. This thing is killing me. Ah. On the floor.
Sorry. but we couldn't last year.
Thank you, Cal.
Bye.
Thank you, Tiffany. Fire, we got chief.
We've got a couple of mutual aid calls, over to Lakota. They had a barn that had a whole bunch of tires in it, so we got some young people with some experience with the SCBA's.
Oh, good.
So we had a car accident. We went out and did traffic control for them. Other than that, for that kind of stuff, that's all we had. I did have engine 1 and engine 2 pump tested. I don't know if people saw it back here behind the.
Yep.
And the city truck, pump engine 2, had one of our valves, when he had it open, it was like spraying like a sprinkler. So he fixed that. We've got all the gauges for all our pressures on the control panel are oil filled, and that keeps the dials from bouncing.
Mhm.
And it seems like they always leak. Every year they're telling us the oil's gone, oil's gone. So we're trying it without the oil for a while. If we have trouble keeping our pressures, we're gonna have that fixed.
Okay.
But as for the pumps, they all passed the test.
Good.
And everything looked really good. And the main, like I said, the main leak, he fixed on the spot. So. And Friday is fun days. We've got everything pretty much ready to set up. Back here.
Ice delivery today, I think.
Yeah, we got the ice today. We opted not to use Alliant Energy for because it was 100 and something to come look at it, and then they have the state inspector come up and inspect the box that they left last time. So we had,
Just last year.
yeah, we had the wire and everything. So we're gonna put the trailer kind of diagonal in the street here, and then we'll put the power and the fire.
Okay.
And then hopefully should be a wash what the increased electricity for the fire hall will be versus what we'd have paid to do that.
Well, there was some discussion of hooking into this 220 in here too, I think.
With that, we'd rather keep the increased power on our bill. So I'd have to try and figure it out on the city hall bill.
And if there's a problem, we have access, easier access versus it being in
So
here.
you're not gonna hook in here?
No.
You're gonna run straight out of it?
Yeah, no,
We've
I
got,
already got the wire, yeah.
Okay.
so, we got 4 porta potties coming up here Friday. I don't know if you need in, you pick up in or out. I told them, we put them over there last year.
Yeah, and I think that worked well. We just need to make sure our vehicles are out if we need them.
Yeah. What, do you know what time they're coming?
No, he didn't say. I'll be around, Chris and I'll be around most of the day if it's too early. Didn't move with your skid loader last time.
So usually if they're empty, we can just push them around.
Yeah. If it's too early, bring the labels and set them out of your way so that you can get your vehicles out and stuff. But other than that, everything else has been quiet. Are you have questions?
No.
Okay. Oh, I guess payroll's on the agenda.
Yep.
And actually, we had, I believe it was 14 calls through the last fiscal year. So our payroll keeps going down. Before we built our grass rig, our payroll was between 3,500 and 4,000. And then this year we came in at 1,300. So we're getting that down. And as soon as I get some billable calls, we'll get them billed out and get some funds back in the account.
Okay. Well, you're sitting there down.
Yeah, and I see, is there 2 spots open on the fire department right now?
Yes.
Bill? Okay,
I'm going.
no time. I just see number 7, number 22 on the payroll is empty, so I figured.
Zero. And I think we'll probably have 2 more openings here. Cause I know Lane Everson. They bought a house in Ruthven,
Okay,
so. And so I think it's through this month and next month, he'll still be helping us, and Cheyenne Schroeder has decided to go groom animals out in New York, so. She's gone for a while.
Domestic animals, I don't.
We just heard she was going out somewhere to groom.
okay.
So she bought a cheap trailer and she was wanted to New York.
Good for her.
Hey,
She's.
did you make you happy?
She's like Keegan's age?
Yeah, she's my grade.
Yeah. Good for her. Thanks, chief. Ambulance.
No,
Are you gonna do it now?
Yeah.
All right, I need a motion to approve fire payroll, please.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now ambulance.
We have the payroll.
Yep.
About $7,000.
Mhm.
And we're helping fire this Friday with fundraising.
Did I see something on the schedule? You guys are doing pork loin sandwiches or something, or a meal too?
Friday night.
Friday.
Is it a
During the day.
For the beer garden.
Oh, okay.
Sandwich chips and have lemonade.
Okay.
And that'll be a little later, because the cheerleaders are doing supper in the park, right? Yeah. So it'll be during the dance.
Yeah,
Okay.
the dance starts at 7, we put on there, or dance starts at 8, and we put on there that we'd start the beer garden and food at 7. Just
Okay.
a little before the band and try to get people liquored up beforehand.
You have to spend some money.
Yeah.
Have them eat so they can drink more.
Okay, doke.
I have a statement that I wrote for, I don't know if you want to read it now, it's in. Goes along with the ambulance agreement thing. I can read it at the beginning of that, or I can read it now, it's up to you guys, so.
It's your public time.
So, I can read it now quick.
I'm assuming Kristen's ambulance and you're public, so. Huh? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I've served the ambulance service as an EMT for the last, I think, 12+ years. I made the commitment to be an EMT. Or when I made the commitment to become an EMT, it was hard to find volunteers. And since joining the Swea City Ambulance Service, it has gotten harder, not only for us, but all services to find volunteers. I fought hard for the Northern Hub to be located in Swea City and for the county-wide service to be established. I fought this knowing that at the time was coming that we wouldn't be able to staff a 24/7 service with just volunteers. And I wanted to ensure that the taxpayers of our community had a much needed ambulance responding when they needed it. I intend to serve as a volunteer for the County EMS service. And hopefully I'll be continuing to serve the community I grew up in and call home, volunteering for the Northern Hub location in Swea City. But that decision is up to you 5 council members to decide tonight if you want Swea City to have an ambulance service in our town, or if you want that ambulance to possibly come from up to 30 miles away if there's an ambulance even available. Many of you have had a family member or friend that has needed the ambulance from our town, and they have received care from one of the best services in the area. If the agreement with Cassuth County is not approved tonight, the reality is that we cannot keep a service operating in Swea City. Without the help of a full-time staffing provided by the Cassuth County EMS service, it is not possible. There is only one question you need to ask yourself tonight when discussing the approval of the agreement. When your loved one is in need of an ambulance, do you want one to arrive in 5 minutes, or do you want to wait 30 minutes for one to arrive? That 30 minutes could mean a difference of whether you live or die. If you think I'm exaggerating, here's some health facts to think about. When having a heart attack, time is muscle. Every minute you go without treatment is heart muscle that's dying and can't be reversed. When having a stroke, you have 1 hour from the time the stroke starts to receive either medication to clear the blockage or surgery to fix a bleed. In that hour, you need to be transferred to a hospital, have a CT scan, and then be flown to the nearest hospital that can administer treatment. If you wait 30 minutes for the ambulance to arrive, you are out of time before you arrive at the hospital to receive treatment before irreversible damage occurs. So once again, ask yourself tonight, do you want members of your community receiving top level care in a timely manner? Or do you want their lives at risk waiting for it? The citizens of Swea City and the surrounding communities have already spoken and made it clear when the countywide service, they wanted the countywide service when they voted yes for EMS on November 8th, 2022. It's now your turn to listen to the members of our community who voted for most of you to represent them on the council and voted yes for EMS.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
Madam Chairman, may I say something?
Sure.
In 1979, I was smothered in bed. And these people say. That's what we're quoting on. Lives.
I'm just gonna put this out here. I don't believe any of these council members or myself have ever been against this transfer happening. I'm kind of speaking for the council here, but it has always been, I believe, the intent of this council and myself to sign that agreement. On the other side of that, I believe this council and myself have a responsibility to the taxpayer to ensure that they are being represented adequately in this transfer agreement. For those that may not be aware, we have had, I think it's 5 iterations of this agreement where there are changes every time it comes across. What does this cause us to do? This causes us to sit down and match agreement to agreement to see what has been changed, what has not been changed. If we agreed with it, if it still represents what the taxpayer has put into this effort, and if it's acceptable to the council. Those 5 iterations have come 1 a week. 1 every week, pretty much. And I believe there's 1 more coming yet before the end of the month. We have sent it to our city attorney, who has reviewed it. I believe we're going on 3 times because of the changes that were in the agreement. I can't imagine any of you would sign this without having some legal input on it. The last went down on, I believe, June 9th. Our attorney sent a letter to the county attorney. We just heard back yesterday. So just so I'm really clear, again, there is never been any thought about not signing this agreement. We fully understand, and I certainly fully understand the need for an ambulance service in this community. And the best way to do that was when we were approached a year and a half ago, 2 years, to become the Northern Hub. And we stood in front of the supervisors and fought against another community to bring that hub here to Swea City. I just can't imagine any of you that are here tonight or any other community member would want us to just willy-nilly sign over a critical life support effort or function without truly taking the interest of the community in mind.
Can I say something from the other part of this, away from this, excuse me, scares me, us, I do believe, I will speak for myself. I'm all for it. The part that scares me, Vince, is that in the original agreement, which I don't know if you guys know, that can be looked at yearly. So in a year from now, it doesn't mean Sway City's going to be the North Hub. So what we as a council members are doing, or at least what I am doing, is to make sure that if they transfer that to Vanguard, that we get everything we have, so we can still work. Ambulances, all the equipment we had, all of them. If that wasn't in there, it would be considered yearly. I'd have gave my vote for it, how many weeks ago? Months ago. That scares me. To me, that means if something doesn't go right, a year from now, they can turn and move it there. And then where are we sitting with our ambulance?
Keep in mind, when we sign this agreement, we're signing over the building across the street, 6 cities, for $1. We're transferring 2 fully equipped ambulances. But today, an ambulance costs right around $300,000. I'm not saying those are new ambulances. One is very old and the other one's got, I don't know, 50,000 miles on it. And it's recently gone through some repairs. So to add to Cal's concern is, even in 2 years, if they move the hub, what does the city look like for an ambulance service and what equipment comes back? They've consistently made promises that we will be fully restored to our current level of service. Well, when you look at our current level of service, we have had a paramedic for about 18 months across the street. We know the city cannot afford a paramedic, so right off the top, we won't be restored to current level. We will restore to pre-county level with an EMT. Which is fine. We ran the service for many, many years with an EMT.
So anyway, believe me, that's all, I can't speak for anybody else, but I've talked to a few. And when that came up, that it could be changed in a year, it'll be a year by year basis, is that not correct?
No,
would
that
like
was,
to address
no,
that.
I will. That was never in this agreement that it would be a year by year review. That was a discussion at the EMS Advisory Council. That would be reviewed on a yearly basis. So it was not part of this agreement. It was part of the structure, which is under the Code of Iowa that this advisory council was formed under.
But there's no guarantee in the agreement that the hub will stay in Sway City.
That's correct. None of us have a crystal ball.
And this has kind of gotten way out of proportion, I hate it. But that's all we're trying to do is make sure that Sway City, if that goes someplace else. I guess in my mind, that Sway City can still operate and function.
But can they? You say a few years ago, we did just fine with those EMTs, but I'm looking at the two EMTs that, like three EMTs that were here daily. And two of them I know for sure no longer work in Sway City. They can't leave their jobs to come and do that service anymore. So that's, I mean,
I
and we
absolutely,
have a hard time like finding new EMTs. So who can, in the middle of the day, be here to be service?
I fully understand that, and certainly that's been discussed at numerous council meetings about getting, an EMT class. Was supposed to be, discussed and possibly brought in. I think there's a gentleman out of Buffalo or Titanca or someplace that teaches it. From what I understand, that fell through. Getting volunteers for this service and certainly getting somebody to commit to EMT from this area. So that you understand that requires somebody to go to Fort Dodge. Is it one night, 2 nights a week, Chris? I don't remember off the top of my head.
Depends on the class.
Yeah. For an extended length of time, so it's a huge personal.
No, because I'm looking into the classes, or I'm one of the interested individuals. What I'm saying, like during the day. And that's what you guys need to be thinking about. And I know we don't have a crystal ball, but I'd say if you were ever in my position where you needed someone, like with a paramedic status in your life daily, maybe some of you would change your mind.
I guess I'm confused about changing your mind about what?
I just don't understand what the hesitation is for it. Like, yes, I realize like you're worried that it will be pulled eventually, but what if it's not? I mean, I don't think it's here any indication that it's going to happen. I mean,
Yeah,
Mr. Stecker is.
We've always been, verbally, they've both verbally and even at my, EMS council meetings, they've all said, verbally that Sway City would be restored to, if it ever got moved, it would be restored. But we want to make sure that's in the agreement, okay? Or that,
The language,
that
the
the-
language is
yeah,
there for
so
that
we will
already.
have, that's where the lawyer is looking at that. Because what I think I'm reading and what he thinks he's reading and what all of us that aren't lawyers may not be what really it's saying. So that's where we're at with it. And by getting several different agreements, then now he's got to look at a different agreement. So it is a little tough, and he does have to communicate then with their lawyer, who's Todd Holmes, and ours is Scott Buchanan. So we're not ready right now, just because of that. We have to wait for that lawyer approval, I believe.
So the change to that, and
I
maybe
understand.
we should wait till we get to that item on the
Yeah,
agenda.
thank you.
But I would like to address some of these changes that you're referring to, 5 changes. I would like to address that, why those changes happened. I feel like this is all directed back to, we changed all those and it didn't. It's a mutual thing that's happened. I think we're ahead of the game here. We're discussing Sway City EMS stuff and we
Thank
should
you.
address this when we get to that.
Right, I agree.
I appreciate his letter. That's fine, but to dive into this deeper, we should wait till that's on.
I agree.
I get a motion to approve the ambulance payroll, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Water and sewer referrals.
Water's doing pretty good. Our ironers here last week. They did, their 2-year inspection of water tower. They just, every other time this time they ran an ROV through it. Have not received a report back, so waiting on that.
What's our RUV?
It's like a little submarine that,
Oh, okay.
underwater drone basically.
Okay.
that Goes around, videos it. They inspect it that way
So where do they run that? Just in the tower or where do
in the tower.
just in the tower?
That way we don't have to
Drain it.
completely drain it or go on boil guys and all that fun stuff. So. And then with sewer, drawdown went good. Kind of turned into a somewhat dry summer again, so lagoons are looking good so far.
When you draw down like that, that's just the liquid, right?
Yes,
So where's all the solids go? It's just.
they in there,
The bugs eat it.
they break down over.
So again, is there, you know, I see other cities where they pump that. Apply
Yeah.
it.
We
Do you
just
do
had,
that?
I occasionally do sludge judging, see what the sludge depth is. And we just, our engineers just had that done here this spring. And we are at good levels on that.
Have we ever did one, Randy, that said in the past?
Not since I've been here, but when we do the lagoon project, it'll be done then, so.
Right.
Garbage.
Everything's still going good. Truck's still running fine. Hopefully. We're having quite a few one dumps. So everything's going good.
All the dumpsters are up, new bottoms and all that done.
We have 2 or 3 that still need to get new bottoms. Gotta find the time to get to them.
How did the city cleanup day deal go?
Pretty slow.
But you filled them.
It was slow, but they were full.
They were full, but it was the whole time. It wasn't everyone at once. So, other than that, pretty good.
I see some minor changes to that. That being, we won't get that garbage, it's not already bad. Oh. Which is.
It's garbage.
It was, yeah, pretty disgusting.
Yeah.
For the garbage man saying that.
Wretchedly disgusting. So. All right, thanks, Keegan. Old business, review and take action with regards to the sewer line at 105.6. I know we got a call, gosh, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
We went down after hours and cambered it. We found nothing. Have you had any problems since? Maybe you got the magic touch, Keegan.
Yeah. You want me to show them the picture or no? Council,
The video or?
that picture of what we found in the main?
No. No.
Not enough if you want to see it.
That's fine, thank you. If we speak to Jeff about his estimate,
He gave me a, just kind of a rough estimate without really diving deep into it, but
and that was just the dig, that wasn't the repaving.
that was, yeah, everything other than repaving.
How much was that?
He said roughly, he said probably 4 to 5,000. I mean, depending on if he ran any surprises, 6, 7 at the very highest. That was just kind of a quick off the top of his head. Off of what his experience.
What do you have to do after that? What do you have to do then?
Cemented or asphalted or whatever?
Just asphalt.
Yeah, we'll do regular paving, like we did the street.
Yeah.
Discuss and take action with regard to, I'm sorry, Carrie, did you have anything else to add to that?
I thought we talked at the last couple meetings that we're gonna get this fixed.
Oh, we need a motion on that. What do you want to do?
I make a motion, we fix it. I think we should get some actual bids and a little bit of writing. Jeff, and maybe, I don't know, well, is Jeff the only one we use, I assume?
You usually go with,
And he's got the time to do it, because I know a lot of contractors don't have a lot of time.
he's busy, but Jeff has always usually tried to make time for us. If there's a leak, he's usually here that day or the next day, depending how it is.
So I make a motion that we get it hand fixed.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sorry about that. Info move to action. Bam, gonna fix it.
Thank you.
No guarantees when. I mean, there's too many factors to say, hey, we'll do it next week. Way too many factors.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. Discussion, take action with regard to the cold storage. As you know, the cold storage building, collapsed. Back into it. We did go get some quotes for demo. Those are in your packet. There's quite a vast difference between the two.
What did we get from the insurance company?
I was getting to that. We got the check just a day or so ago. It's 107,249. That's it.
Right.
That's it. That's demo, that's rebuild.
Yeah,
that's
I get that.
Okay.
Initially, we thought we were gonna get money for tearing it down. Our agent thought we were gonna get money for tearing it down, and then it would be, he wasn't quite sure. But that's the lump sum. Now, we haven't really been able to get in there very much because personal property will be the other part of that. So if we can, if there is anything in there of value that's been damaged, we'll provide that, and then we would get
Additional on it.
additional funds for the personal property, but that 107 is a separate thing,
In personal property, we're talking about city property.
right?
Yeah.
Just items that are in there.
So internally, we've had some discussions about whether or not, that's just an awful location to have storage. It's right on the highway. It's difficult to get vehicles in and out of there. Quite often we have to stop traffic and the whole thing, so we started looking around, maybe to find another location to rebuild. And the thought was that it would be up to you guys what you wanted to do with that lot after it was torn down, whether you wanted to sell it or hang on to it or whatever. So the bids for tear down were, Zach Luzman thought 61. Is 6,100, 6,150. And if you compare it to the one from Jeff, who would work with Michelson's to do haul out. Theirs came in at 19,950. Theirs is very in-depth of what they're going to do. Zach's is kind of high level, I guess. So in addition to that, we took a look at empty lots in town. And we,
What's that?
Check.
107,240 or something.
We identified a couple just over the tracks. State Line owns it. So we approached them on the possibility of buying. There's two lots on the west end of that. Where the big old cottonwood tree is.
Okay.
Last cottonwood in town, by the way, I think, or we think. So we talked to Rory about that and said, hey, what do you think? And he said he would take it to the board. So State Line Property Board meets tomorrow. And the sale of that property is going to be discussed. So we should know, hopefully Friday, maybe, what they might want to charge us for it. So that will be on the table probably next month too.
That was, how big a building do you think we need?
Go on.
I mean, that size of that one was what, 40 by 90 or?
42 by 96.
Okay.
I mean, it was a good sized building. It's just, it wasn't all usable space.
Right.
The way it was set up with
The post and
post and the way the roof sloped down, you couldn't get anything big in the back half, so. I mean, something that size, I would think would be large.
So a 40 by 60 building would work, or I mean, that's what you're in outside of town now, is a 40 by 60, I believe.
That's 50 by 60. I think.
50 by 60.
Probably right around there, even if we went 40 by 80. But I mean, that's not a huge difference, but
It's just gonna be cold storage, correct?
yeah. I mean, we went for. I'm assuming we'd probably go with gravel. I mean, it's something you could always
Sure.
add in the long run.
I don't think there's any intent to cement it. It's cold storage. I mean, we currently have stuff sitting in state lines, onset hut sitting there because we have no place to put the Christmas decorations, the snow blowers, that type of stuff, so.
Does the city own any other property that we could build on? Not big enough.
East side of the park.
Well, I didn't know out there on the other side of the bus farm, we own all the way up to Dimes Building or up there. I don't know how big, how much room is there.
We do, but there's not much room out there, and the agreement with the school is as long as the school's here, they get to use the bus barn.
Yeah, I get that.
But that property actually is pretty awkwardly cut, so there's not much space. out there.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, there's certainly no place to put another. The other discussion we had too was that most of us will be gone by now, by then, but in 25 over that, they're gonna have to have someplace to put a new water tower possibly, or a well drill. For that property next to the current cold storage property, which we can either sell that or we can retain it as city property. Not saying that it would be a usable space in 25 years.
I get
that. The downside is that the city then maintenance that property all year.
Mow it, basically.
Mow it, weed it, yeah. Or we can sell it. It's a commercial space.
Okay.
And we have had somebody in town that is interested.
Wendy? Can I just ask that when you guys decide to tear it down, that whoever tears it down, contact us so we can try and salvage the truck that's underneath?
Oh, it's our intent to take everything. We're not gonna
Yeah.
tear it down on top of everything that's in there.
All right.
We still have a lot of stuff in there too. We just need to make sure it's safe to go in and get city stuff out of there.
Right.
Absolutely will. Yeah.
Because by the looks of it, I don't know how they got it in there. They must have G-hopped that in to get it inside those posts. So maybe we can just pull it straight out.
That's crafty. It's crafty. Forklift to.
Sure, yeah.
We're good at what we do.
We just want to make sure that we could try and salvage it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
There's a number of items up there yet that there's some new wood and some piping and some barricades and that kind of stuff that we just have no place to put it.
Right.
I mean, currently I can't just put this stuff on the street. I mean, that's the hard part is it's difficult to move stuff out of there and have nowhere to put it.
Right.
The state line has been very generous and I think they probably would continue that generosity in their storage unit down there, but I don't want to be sitting at this table 2 years from now
Right.
saying, hey, guys, we
You
need to
need
get
to
that,
build it.
we need to get that stuff off state line.
Right.
They've been
I agree.
kind enough, so.
I guess do we ask Zach if he's got proper insurance? I mean, we don't want anything to happen to neighbor buildings.
He has to, if he's going to do any work for the city, he has to provide
Okay.
liability insurance.
Okay.
Jeff's, we pretty much just keep that on file, I think. Jeff, so.
First thing to do is decide, the one thing that, when you didn't mention this individual that had mentioned some interest. Take that.
He will take it as is.
He will take it as.
Yes, so
But he wants to pull $1 out of his wallet.
most likely,
A dollar bill and he cleans it up.
he would take it as is. So at this point, but you can't really decide on that, and well, I wouldn't until you know if there's if another location is an option.
Right.
So that, and unfortunately, we won't have that. So at this point, I don't think there's really much to do. Other than
I-
maybe table it.
This is just me. I think we should just go with it and get it cleaned up. Get it cleaned up
Well,
and then,
on the other side of that, Barry, if somebody walks into City Hall next week and says, hey, I'll give you 10 grand for that building just as it is. I would just save anywhere between 19 and 6.
it's true.
I mean, I don't,
Does that mean all that we don't get the stuff out of it?
no, no, this gentleman is,
But my worry with that is, and no matter who it is, yeah, they do that. And we tell them you got 60 days to get it cleaned up and they still don't get it cleaned up.
yeah, right, we don't have any contract to hold them, right.
So I mean,
Do we want to entertain that thought? Paul?
well, we'd have to open up bids for that.
Yeah.
Real estate. You don't.
Well,
But as-
I would still want to do bids, I think. I know we don't have to, but I still would, just to be fair to everybody.
As of right now, do we have liability on our hands, if what else comes out if somebody gets hurt?
It's all, our insurance company and stuff is all barricaded in, so.
They're entering at their own risk.
The benefit of selling as is you then aren't taking away the demo cost. You can then put that towards your,
Purchase of a property or shed.
Right.
I agree. I understand that.
but I guess it just depends on, I mean,
Do we know the value of that?
the land itself is right about 3, I think, was the,
No.
just where the land value was.
The big lot is 45 and the little
Oh.
lot is 32.
Cold storage.
Oh, cold storage?
Yeah,
That's right at 3, if I remember correctly, just for the land value is
the property. then.
Yeah, I think total assessment's right around 7 to 7 or something.
So, which is what you'd be looking at, which is the land itself.
The other piece of that is that whoever were to purchase that land would have to abide by some control issues because it's next to the water plant. And there's a well sitting right out back, so we have an ordinance that they would have to abide by too. The well control or something.
Water control zones.
Yeah,
I get, you know, if it's sell it the way it is, and put that money towards something, but then again, we're back to being our water plant landlocked. And back to what you just said with the well and access, and I agree with the ordinance. I've just soon, this is just me speaking, clean it up. City still owns it for the little bit of maintenance it'll take to do it every year. Back in case we need to drill a new well or any of that stuff.
well, if it turns out that a few years down the road, we're not. Someone comes up with a deal, we can sell it then. I mean, it's right
Yeah.
either. It's something that they sell later, we want it to.
The property we have a.
So I believe we should get it cleaned up and we own it and go on from here. That's just me.
Make a move.
Make a motion.
I make a motion that we get it cleaned up and the city keeps the property for the time being.
Second.
Or you having cleaned it up
Okay, then I would say for $13,000. I would have Zach do it. For savings of $13,000, as long as he can provide the proper insurance and liability. For the city.
So the motion on the table is to hire Zach Lubenthal and
Clean it up and the city. Keep the property at this time.
that was a lot. Did somebody second?
Regular average survey.
Yeah,
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, last month, I think we talked briefly about sending in RFQs. Our city attorney is resigning or retiring. We don't have a firm date. He has committed to see us through the ambulance stuff until that's complete and signed and on its way.
But not the other thing, not the tile problem.
No, that is being done by our
Oh, that's-
insurance lawyer.
That's right.
He's been heavily involved in it, so. you're
Okay.
aware of it. And certainly whoever we might hire in the future would need to be brought up to speed on that also. We only got, we sent out how many? 12? 10 or 12? We got one back. Who seems very interested. Again, I'm not sure that. Are we ready to hire tonight, discuss action in regards to RFPs for the city? This gentleman actually owns the rental properties, the apartments. He's a lawyer out of Algona, I think. Where is he from?
Calhoun, Whittemore.
He has a, the last page is kind of a, personal.
Brian did approach me in Whittemore one day when my wife was down there with her business and told me everything, and I just said, send the letter back in and the council will approve it. Or, I mean, not approve it, we'll look it over.
The deadline for return of these was last week also, so I don't expect any late arrivals. I don't know that we need to hire him tonight. I just want to make sure that you guys take the time, read his letter. He comes with an endorsement from the city of Emmitsburg, who I'm sure has had a number of legal challenges over there.
Do you wanna just go with the one, or do you, or maybe send more out, or I don't know.
Well, we went out quite a ways, I believe, we went out 70 miles, up to 70 miles with these letters.
Well, it wasn't, I didn't do a radius. I got a hold of other towns, I talked to Terry, other law firms, and kind of went with ones, yeah, that were recommended. Sent out, well,
Oh,
yeah,
Spencer,
it's about 10.
Spencer,
Yeah.
Garner, Whittemore. A number of them went straight to Algona. None of those firms were.
A couple of them use the same. There was one that we thought maybe we would get a response from, but he, I think was checking into conflict of interest because of the past. Their firm is involved in the Johnson issue, so he was concerned about that.
So, like I said, Spencer, Garner was the farthest. You want to go out farther? I know.
Well, the problem is going farther, just like reading his letter, he's gonna charge us by the hour driving here for a meeting that he couldn't even at.
Right.
So we get somebody from Des Moines, I mean, we're paying a lot of money for.
You're talking 6, 8 hours drive time.
Right.
We are.
So you never know this guy previous.
On the other side of that,
No, I mean, just have a beer with him, that's about it, no legal work with him.
on the other side of that, I've been mayor for 5 years, something like that. Have we ever had an attorney come up? I don't think we have.
Years ago we did.
For the nuisance thing, but I think that was a failure.
I mean, technology just.
Right, well, I know Zoom calls and everything else. And like he read in his letter, he comes up to Swea City at least once a week anyway for
Yeah.
for the maintenance on his property and he'd
So
stop.
he will charge you, as
Correct.
long as he's here anyway.
I don't know, so with Buchanan, we don't formally have an agreement. I mean, they decided years ago, there's no annual contract, there's
Correct.
nothing of that nature. He's just been listed as,
It's not a retainer, anything.
he's been with the attorney and has respected that, and, you know, if something does come up with conflict of interest, he backs away from that because his priority has been us, so. But I would need to check with Brian and see.
Did Brian ask for a contract in here? I guess I didn't see that.
I don't know, that's why I said.
I didn't see it.
Check with him and see if that's something he would,
Okay,
yeah, I don't know if he.
No, he speaks to an hourly 2 hour space to an hour.
hourly rate, yeah.
How much is our current?
Anywhere from 180 to 250. So,
So he is higher, but that's, they're all gonna be, I think.
Yeah, that is,
I think so.
that rate's probably 20 years old.
Yeah.
Shit, he's charging us now.
Yeah, I think Scott's doing pretty generous.
Do we see anything in the future of another attorney just reaching out to us for this? I don't see that happening. So
They were given an opportunity.
correct.
Yeah, we got nothing else.
We got nothing else to.
So what's the next step? And we should.
So I essentially don't need, I mean, if that's the consensus is to move forward, I can welcome to move forward. And then I can officially, I would like to freshen up on it because it happened well before my time. So I want to make sure that if there are other steps that we need to take, we do that, but I want to. I would like, if that's what you want to do, your consensus to move forward, so I can do what I need to do.
I'll make a motion that we move forward.
Brian too. I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Knocking them down today, guys. All right, discuss and take action with regard to the asset transfer agreement with the county.
Just to let everybody know, first of all, I asked Alicia to call Buchanan, our city attorney, to be at this meeting tonight, but he evidently, or he couldn't make it, he told Alicia, so. Cause I had a lot of questions for him as well. And at the last city council meeting, like Randy, we talked about at the beginning of the meeting, we went through correct me if I'm wrong, Phil, we went through the contract that you brought up and we sat down and wrote down everything. And evidently now we're on the third, fourth contract from that one. Is that how I'm understanding
Not
it?
that I'm aware of.
Okay. So the one we agreed to send to the
I
attorney.
have a timeline here.
Okay.
You want me just to start?
Sure.
Okay.
Well, I'm sorry, Wendy, I didn't mean to step on your meeting. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I guess, first of all, I just want to say last month, we had a 2.5 hour council meeting just on this topic. For over an hour of that meeting, was all addressed at me personally. I do not want to go there tonight. I want to put behind us. If we cannot work together, this council and myself, I cannot recommend to the Board of Supervisors to approve any kind of contract to be placed here. That's not a threat. Not hanging a carrot out over anybody. I'm just stating a fact. Even though the county's gonna own this system, we still are gonna have to work on things together with this council, with these people from the Swea City Ambulance Service, because they're still gonna have their association. We still need to have a working relationship. And I appreciate Mayor Zilski stating that everybody here was behind this. I question that because last meeting it was stated in a public meeting that you wish the service was never placed here and you wish it did not continue. And that's not the first time I've heard that. And maybe it was just a heat of the moment comment that was made, but it's still frustrating. Anyhow, I would like to address the 5 different contracts that was stated. We began working on this contract back in March to get the language all in place. I'm not saying we started working on it here in Swea City. We started working on it with the advisory council to get the language in place. The most recent, we did have a city council meeting on May 17th, as Barry stated, and we did go through that contract pretty much line by line. We made recommendations by you guys as far as wording changes to be made, but those were mostly ands and ors, changing ors to an and, changing ands to an or. There was no content change to that contract. It has remained the same content since day one. The only thing that has changed is some of the wording on how we added in, for example, we added in current inventory be returned, modern day equivalent, or the financial ability to purchase that equipment if it wasn't in place. So we've tried very hard, and that's been my goal from the start of this thing, is to make sure that Sway City had something if this ever left. And to make sure Algona had something if this vote was repealed and they had nothing left. So it's very important to me that the residents of Cassuth County, I've been EMS, as Chris said, 12 years. I've been involved for 30 years in EMS. As a volunteer and now full-time, but I want to make sure that the residents, not only of Sway City, but the whole county have an EMS service if this vote is repealed or a tough decision is made to move to one hub or move a hub location, which is not in anybody's plan. So that happened on May 17th, and we went through that contract. On May 18th, the next day, I forwarded an email to Loopy, she's on my EMS advisory council. I sent her an email, she was on the road. She did review my changes, and I believe you forwarded it to another council member to also look at the changes. I just wanted to make sure I'd captured everything for the meeting. And then that was forwarded to the attorneys that day. So one day after the meeting, that was forwarded to the attorneys. I have heard nothing from Sway City since that time. We received a response letter back to the county attorney on June the 12th.
I think, is that the one we all have a copy of?
Yeah, what's the date on yours? I know I received it on June. I received it on June the 12th from, because it was not sent to me directly, it was sent to the county attorney. He forwarded it to me on June the 12th. At that point, on June the 13th, the decision was made to split the contract into two contracts rather than one third-party contract. The reason for switching that contract from Sway City, Algona, and the county was because the Algona attorney put language into that contract that said, if one party withdraws from this contract, the whole contract is void. We didn't want that to happen. We wanted to make sure that we had a contract in place and not start over from scratch if one party would withdraw from the contract. So we split it in two. There was absolutely zero language change, other than removing one community and saying city, and then the other contract went to Sway City as being the city, but there was no language change that went into that. So that was forward, and I have not, since then, I have not heard a word from anybody. I've not heard anything back from the attorneys. Kyle and I met with Todd Holmes last Monday,
Yep.
2 days ago, Monday. We were in Todd's office, 10 a.m. for a couple hours. We still did not have anything back on the Sway City other than this original letter, so. I don't know. I really don't. Somehow we need to put behind us. Somehow we need to work together as a group with these guys here, you guys here, and make this thing happen if it's gonna happen. We're down to 9 days. We go live. Something's gotta happen. So, I mean, we're either on board to do this or we're not. I'm not here to persuade you guys to do one thing or another. I understand what Cal's saying. We need to make sure that you guys have a service that if it comes back. I think this contract covers it very well. The supervisors, the 4 attorneys that have looked at this so far haven't had any issue with that part of it. It's never been brought up between any of the 4 attorneys. Or 2 attorneys, I guess, 3 attorneys, the city, the county, and the city. None of them have had an issue of how the stuff is returned. We tried very hard to make sure that that is there financially and equipment wise. So I guess that's all I have. Thank you. If you have questions, I'm here.
Bill, I'm just seeing the version you're looking at has yellow highlights on it, and at the header, it's got revision dates. I don't believe that's the final version that was approved.
This one's, June 8th, this one's updated that.
Council has everything that they have in their packet. What you have in front of you that are stapled together are, I provided you every single thing that was given to me after the council meeting. And I went through and compared the one you received at council meeting to the one that was received right after that, and I highlighted anything that was an addition or a change. Then I went to the one I received after that and did the same with that one, so you could see the changes as they've gone through. So you could see some of the questions that were asked. So this comes from Phil. And I believe there's a Schedule A attached to one, and then your final packet is the most recent Schedule A. And any changes or revisions on the Schedule A are noted to you as well. I was just trying to make it more convenient, so you don't have to go line by line.
So, just so everybody in the community knows, every time we've received a revision, we have not specifically shared that with council. They have not gotten inundated with paper. So Alicia, get the other. Let's identify what changes between each agreement from agreement 1 to agreement 5. And there are still changes in agreement 5 that I still have questions about. So we provided that to the council members. They picked up their package yesterday and had an opportunity to look at it. And identify kind of what Lupe's been heavily involved in this. I have certainly been involved, and Alicia's been involved, and it's kind of been the three of us, and we thought, you know what, wait a minute. We need to pull the council and make the council aware of what has been going on for the last month from the last council meeting. So I do have a timeline, but it's significantly different than Bill has shared, so.
Regardless.
Right, the timeline is. Bottom line is, May 15th, I agree that we sat down with a hand carried agreement at that time. We had no read ahead. We sat down that night and spent 2.5 hours going through it. Up until June 19th, when we received, June 12th, when we received the document that was apparently, it's split Algona and Swea City out of, so we each have our separate agreements. And I kind of understand why they did that. That makes sense to it, that they do that. But along with that came some additional remarks and comments on the Schedule A that caused me some concern, mostly about who paid for equipment that was given to Swea City and what would remain. And I don't believe it supports the current level that's spoken to numerous times in the agreement. I can only interpret what is there. It is spelled out, paid for by County EMS. I believe it came out of ARPA money. A year and a half ago, they were generous. County ARPA money was generous enough to provide some equipment to Swea City ambulance, and it appears some of that's going back to the county. If the agreement doesn't go through, or I'm not quite sure what the point was for that, but that was my interpretation. So, on June 9th, I reached out, I have an email that reached out to our city attorney. I just needed some help identifying what it meant from a legal, some language meant from a legal standpoint. He and I and Luke talked one day on the phone, and he forwarded those questions then to Mr. Holmes. So as of yesterday, was it yesterday, Scott called and said he had a meeting with Holmes, or?
He sent the letter to Todd, asked for clarification, and there were things that he was concerned about as well. So he included all of that in the letter. He sent it to Todd on the 9th. And I spoke with him briefly yesterday. He said he still had not heard anything back, but was going to reach out. Every time I've talked with him, I have let him know that this is very important. We need to keep moving forward and trying to be speedy. I know that's hard with attorneys sometimes, but, so then he emailed me yesterday afternoon, and, said that he had reached out and was able to get a hold of Todd. And they had discussed and Todd was supposed to be sending him, what I believe to be the most recent agreement. So,
The interpretation was that there was yet another agreement coming, I don't know.
that's, and I checked my email all day and I have not gotten it. The hope was that we would have that for tonight, so we can keep moving forward.
Well, I guess let's talk a little bit about this Schedule A, all this inventory and stuff highlighted.
So, Algona has Schedule A, you guys have a Schedule A. What we did with Algona's is we just removed the items that were to be retained by Cassuth County. I did not include them in the city's Schedule A because it's really not part of their Schedule A. So we could just do the same thing here.
I'm sorry, say that again. Say that again.
The property that is owned by Cassuth County, we did not include in the Schedule A.
On Algona's
Or
schedule.
Algona's Schedule A, so we could do the same thing with you guys' Schedule A, if that's how you so choose. And then we just left, we didn't have anything highlighted, anything that said paid by municipal.
Okay, so, some time ago, my understanding, you traded some equipment for new equipment.
Correct.
What was that?
For the monitor, we traded in the old E-Series monitor that was here.
Okay.
That did not work.
Okay.
So we traded that in, we got $2,500 trading credit for it.
That's that Zoll
About the only thing,
X.
about the only thing you could have done with it, you could have sold it for anything.
Okay, so that's the advanced cardiac monitor
Yes,
that's highlighted? And you're taking that back because you
Correct.
bought it? That leaves us what?
what's the other cardiac monitor? They have two X-Series.
There's one above it.
Oh, okay, I see that. So we only had one to start with? Or did we have two?
You had the new one and then we had that old E-Series that.
We sent
was
it
history.
to work for years.
Right, but essentially you're leaving us one short, is what you're telling us.
No, you didn't have one. more, Dave.
But some don't work.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, okay.
So you have one.
These,
Not trying to get anything sold.
these companies, when you buy equipment like that high dollar equipment, if you have something that you can throw them a bone with, they're gonna give you that credit. Whether it's another monitor, if it's a old manual blood pressure machine, it's just a fact of life.
Okay.
So we just took advantage of that.
Okay.
I know you guys had questions on that, of why I did that, who approved it, who approved the trade, who approved the authorization. And I did send you an email back stating that I did go to the Swea City ambulance meeting and we did have a discussion there. And that was approved at an ambulance meeting. It wasn't me just deciding to do that.
Understand that.
Okay.
The financial kickback came back through a rate deduction on the new equipment that you bought.
Correct.
Okay.
And that wasn't actually information we wanted. Scott had directed me to ask about that information, so I did that correction.
And then the Stryker Lucas 3 CPR devices.
Yes, we have two of those.
Two, you're leaving one in Sway City and you're taking the
Correct.
other with you?
My question on Schedule A, why do we have the property highlighted in yellow? Just because it wasn't on there before?
Right.
Okay.
Well,
My recommendation on the property part is basically on that sheet you guys have, just has the address. We should add the legal.
Legal description
on there besides that.
does have guns.
Not the full legal description. It would have
Just has.
Harrison or whatever section of town it's like.
Lot, whatever.
Yeah,
blocks, whatever. And I can, I'm willing to get that. I can get that from the assessor's office without an issue and we'll forward that to Alicia.
Oh, I can pull offline.
Then this,
Chris, have you seen this scheduling?
I've seen it at one time.
Kristen, have you?
So Chris originally wrote the Schedule A.
Yeah.
I took that Schedule A and I put it into an Excel spreadsheet. I merely did that so we had an electronic version to use. I wasn't trying to take anything away from you guys and you guys doing your Schedule A. I just merely put it into electronic form.
Yeah, I think we had it in your both that one.
Chris didn't.
Yeah, Chris had it.
I think Chris.
Now, specifically the highlighted items is what I had a concern about, because I don't know what's over there. So it was my understanding these items were bought again with ARPA money from the county and were given to Sway City. Okay, but the ownership always stayed with the county, Chris?
There's also some other equipment in there. There's a portable suction machine that, one of those to stay. You guys have that in your response vehicle.
See, these handheld radios are in
Yeah,
yellow.
those were actually purchased by the E911 board, so those are property of EMS. They'll stay with Swea City. They just don't need it. They run your schedule and they buy cup because they don't say it's got EMS.
Right, okay. I guess, is there anything missing on this Schedule A that should be on there?
That'd be that.
You guys?
I don't see.
I don't see anything missing.
I see,
Am I missing it? Okay, there's a cot. All right.
I talked to Alicia one day and I don't know if this is on your version, but I said that we should list something that says, disposable supplies that are used for day-to-day operation. There's so many other things. It's not worth listing them
Right.
individually, like
The Band-Aids.
that kind of stuff. But and I don't know if yours has that on, but we've mentioned that, as far as adding that is.
I think it's just says miscellaneous medical supplies, there's just no amount.
Yeah,
Fine. God's band-aids.
if you want to clarify that, you can say, for an adequate supply of medical disposable equipment or something like that.
Since you guys have not received the final document from your attorney, do you want the final version that was approved by the Board of Supervisors? And it would be comparable to a bonus. We have not approved one for Sway City yet, but I have the document on my computer. Could send to you if you want to print out copies rather than looking at something that's not actually valid.
Oh, this one's not?
what are you telling me is not valid, Kyle?
Or not the most current.
Is this someone's turn?
I don't know what you're looking at.
Split agreement? The most
This is
recent
the
one
first,
sent to
the
me.
first one, this is the first split agreement that we received.
I've just written on it and
I would assume that it hasn't passed through the attorneys because I did not send that to Sway City. I sent it through the attorneys. That probably hasn't come back up. But, we say, is this not the right version? It's
I mean,
all the same content.
the substance
The only
is
difference in the
the
latest
same,
one is
but
the name. It doesn't just say agreement on the top. It actually has a name. And then where it says building and land, we added in the legal description versus just saying building.
Okay,
and this one, like I was trying to say before, the final does not have the revision dates on it in the header. I mean, it's not material differences, but it's
Kyle,
not,
let me clarify, you have Sway City's final? Or you have Algona's final?
I have both, but I mean, the only difference is Swea City versus
When
Algona.
was it final? I'm just wondering if that's the one that Scott's gonna be receiving or.
It would be the one that either
Todd has
Todd
it.
has it, so he should be sending it on to Scott, but if
when
it
was
hasn't,
he- Do you know when he finalized it or why we hadn't received it yet or?
can't speak for the attorneys.
So that.
But the version, what I have on my computer would be Sway City and Algona would be the only difference in the agreement versus what we approved for Algona. Algona's has already been voted on by their city council and the board of supervisors. So this document would be the exact replica of that.
You got it on your computer?
Yeah,
If
I don't know.
Got that?
This has building and land in here. I think you have that for Sway City.
Yeah, I need transfer paragraph.
Transfer to,
Yeah. Does it have this wishy-washy and or the?
no, so withdrawing was cleared up because of the change with 2 parties versus 3, so that was clarified.
So in the event that the county or whoever reason no longer has the ability to provide
Can I
emergency
send this
medical
to you so you can print some copies out?
services or hub location is moved, you're saying that's completely changed?
Yes, because, the concept is not different, but the language is clearer now that there's 2 entities in the agreement versus 3.
I don't disagree with that, but
That's fine.
I've just heard
I-
all evening that the content's the same, it's all the same, there's not that changes, and now I'm hearing actually there's changes, so. Hopefully, the attorney is, hopefully our attorney is reviewing for the 3rd, 4th time the correct document.
There is no change other than a couple word changes and adding the legals. There is no content change.
I think you already had the legal in here for Sway City.
Sway City's legals are there.
Yeah. There's,
I will send that to you right now, Alicia.
We also added in the effective date of the contract, but I know what happens, we have to change that.
if we get it, here's what's in Wendy's brain, because I know we're shooting for July 1st. Provided we get legal review, get it through, get it back, we will call a special meeting next week and sign this thing. You will make your July 1st deadline.
So as long as it's this content, that can happen, but if we change this content, you gotta remember, this starts all over. It goes back to the advisory council, supervisors, this county attorney.
And we have 1 meeting in the month, and the deadline for putting stuff on the agenda for that
This tomorrow.
And that's
is
understood,
tomorrow.
that's understood, but.
Today, technically for the public.
Council still should have the right, I mean, everybody here wants to move forward. The problem is now we're down to the last minute. And essentially the option is approve it as it is. Or you can't, or it won't go through and it's gonna be at this table because unfortunately and I understand, Phil, that you said there's no content changes. They have 3 different packets in there. You may say it's no content. There's highlighted throughout all of that where there's so many changes from the version before. So there are content changes. There have been every time. And that to do our due diligence to Sway City, I get we need an ambulance. We also need to make sure that we're being mindful and entering into an agreement that our attorney has advised us is safe to enter into. We're not attorneys. We don't know.
Right, I am not sitting here saying to push this through. That's the last thing I've been saying. Do it right. This is gonna be in effect for a long time. Do it right. Do it
And
right first time.
That's what we would like to do, but now we're down to a time crunch that is nearly impossible. It's,
I think if you print out the agreement that I just sent, everyone could look at it and decide whether they feel those changes are substantial
Yeah,
or
but
not.
still gotta go to their attorney. It's still gotta come back.
You want me to-
The thing is, we're at a point now where we have 9 days left. We should have met between the last city council meeting and this city council meeting, not try to meet after this council meeting. We're making this a rush that could have been avoided if we would have had additional meetings.
Right,
Hindsight, that's hindsight.
it is. Well, we can, I guess I think we feel we should just call a meeting as soon as our lawyer, I mean, we asked him to come up.
The tough thing of getting contracts done, agreements done, when you work with multiple parties, multiple lawyers,
Yeah,
it's hard to do anything fast.
it is.
And then we throw an advisory council and on top of that, and then you have your posting notices and everything else to have these meetings. It's a delay.
I guess my understanding from the last meeting was the council voted unanimously to agree to the substance of the document. Has that changed in any way, shape or form?
The substance of the document has changed significantly.
How can you say that when you say you haven't looked at the new document?
You mean the one you just sent me?
Yeah, the substance has not changed. When you type a few new words, that doesn't guarantee the concept or intent or substance change.
There's whole paragraphs that are different.
Entire paragraphs that are added from one version to the next. So to say the substance and or an or can change the substance. We are not
Legal perspective.
knowledgeable at this table to understand legal terminology. So it's. Yes.
Here's a line from the transfer that was added, when the split went, that I have no idea what it means. Is there something in the back that the council needs to be aware of?
Yes, I'd like to say something. I'm a little tired of listening to this. You go around and around and around the table. Yes, you're worried about the equipment. You're worried about this. But what's to say, why do we need the equipment if we have no volunteers left? And they've left because of all these problems you guys have caused. You can see the group of people that's in here. We want this to be signed and to go through and let it be the way it is, because that's the way we voted. So you guys need to get this stuff done and get it signed so we can go through by the date that they have given you. It's not that hard to figure out, but you guys go around and around on this table and you don't get anywhere.
Amen.
Thank you.
I had one more thing that might help put light to the end of this thing. 2 months ago, you and I had a conversation as far as working on a lease agreement for the fire hall. I asked if that was something that you wanted me to get started, and you said, no, we'll get that through our city attorney, that'd be nothing that I should worry about or take care of. We have yet to see that. That has to go through the whole process of the advisory council, the attorneys, the board of supervisors. Because that document has not even been drawn yet, has not even surfaced yet, there is absolutely no way we can make the July 1 deadline. That gives you time to work on this agreement here. I don't know if that's even been discussed with your attorney as far as starting to draw that agreement.
It has been, and in fact, the first draft letter from our attorney, which was dated some time ago. May 18th actually was the first draft letter, addressed that issue. And it did not get sent because the significant, because of the changes in the agreements that followed after that. So as of today, that lease agreement is being crafted by our attorney.
We agree on what to put in that lease agreement?
Fire gave me the information that they wanted and so should.
It essentially is the same thing that ambulance has been paying.
Okay.
And administrations. I draw a blank.
That's half utilities, half half insurance.
Yeah, happy to.
And then we put a dollar amount in there just for the vehicle space to help pay for maintenance on the building.
So how, come up with square footage wise, Chris, or how do we determine that number,
The number for
the space?
the space, we just threw a number out there per, I think we had 200, we threw out $200 per ambulance as a starting point, just. So
Okay.
there's 2 ambulances, so it'd be $400 a month,
Plus half the utilities.
plus half insurance.
Property insurance.
In the past, the property insurance. Utilities have always been split 50-50, so just kept it basically the way it was. And added the rent, the space rental just to, so that we had money for upkeep on the building, so. If something breaks, say garage door breaks, we'd be responsible for fixing it there, so there should be money there for that.
Pricing came out about 9,400 a year. There's,
9,400 a year.
that's the breakdown.
Has that draft ever been sent to our attorney
No,
or?
that draft did not go because the agreement changed in the whole.
But our, it's like the lawyer now, we're working on this.
Yeah.
Well, looks to me like it's gonna be till September at least before we get anything going.
Okay, so, this agreement covers the property across the street. This agreement could be signed next week. If we get it finalized, get it clean, get it done.
The supervisor will not approve anything without having all pieces in place.
You know what?
With
Without
every,
having everything in place. They're not gonna sign that agreement without having the other agreement, no, with unknown dollars.
Can't drive the car without the tires.
Thanks, Kyle.
Then the other question I would like to bring up too for you guys' discussion is on your attorney letter that you have this dated June 9th. You look at the very last page, the very last paragraph on page 1. And it says there, the city, so this came from you guys, would like all parties to acknowledge that their fund balance transfer cannot occur after the commencement of this agreement until probably the end of August, given that we will not have yet been reimbursed for some services that were provided. Accordingly, they would like to be understood that their fund balance will only be transferred after pending claims for service have been collected. We currently have outstanding bills that are on a payment plan for 5-6 years. So if that's the statement is true, that says we cannot transfer any funds until all pending claims for service are collected. We're looking at years down the road before any funds could be transferred, and that's, I don't think that was your intent.
I don't think that's the
That wasn't
intent.
the intent. Nobody has ever informed me of that.
I know.
That's new, that is news to
I
me.
didn't think it was your intent from
So
the
that's-
conversations we have, but that's clearly what's stated in this letter
Okay,
here.
can I explain, please? What I had concern about was after the last council meeting, there was a solid figure being thrown around. And I wanted to ensure that all of ambulance debts are paid before that transfer of funds goes to you. I think that's only fair. It's the same thing that's in your agreement, is that,
The agreement, the actual wording, then,
can I finish, please?
Yeah.
Essentially, the agreement, I believe, says down the road, if that money were to come back to Swea City, it would not come back until all debts are paid free and clear.
Correct.
So I guess that's simply what I'm asking, the same courtesy here. Is
this,
I don't want the city to be eating debts that the ambulance had because we transferred the money too soon. I would guess the end of August is pretty extensive. I don't anticipate it to take that long. That would be my And we got another ambulance paid 15th of July. So.
I think the part that's not clear is you're referring to debt. This is referring to income. There's nothing in that paragraph that refers to outstanding debt. It all refers to being paid for claims for service to be collected.
We will have Scott clarify that because that's not.
Because in our agreement, you're 100% correct. We want to make sure everybody's debt is cleared up before funds are transferred. I believe the actual wording in there is that they're split 50-50 until all debt is paid off by the city, at which point then 100% reverts to the county.
No,
That's for the negative.
no, that's, if I were.
That is in the financial transition under item 6. That 50-50 language.
Yeah, I
and-
can read that to you because it's a short paragraph. If the city has a negative department fund balance, which we do not. This is for everybody else in the room too. At the end of the fiscal year of 22-23, which we will not, we will have a positive fund balance. The future revenues received by the city in FY 24, which begins July 1st, for services rendered in 23. So our ambulance has serviced for May, June, April, any of those calls they went on, shall be split 50-50 with the county until the city is zeroed out. In other words, if we were in debt, the county was generous enough to say, hey, we'll split the revenue you earned 50-50 with you until your debt is paid up to zero. And then they will take all of it. That is not the case here. What is the case is, if the city has a positive department fund balance at the end of 22-23, and fund balance will be turned over, that fund balance will be turned over to the county. Consensus was at last month's meeting, the council agreed to do that. Said fund balance will be adjusted for the city's defined service area. Anybody got any idea what that means?
So that's actually clarified in the most recent version to clarify
So, wait,
911 service area.
That's one of the questions I posed to legal. I wanted an illegal interpretation of that. So.
And I did respond on June 13th with the full definition of what that meant. And I also added in, instead of saying just define service area, to your attorney.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that.
Sounds good, like, well, attorneys, shit on.
Yep.
That's part of.
So the last sentence of that is all future revenues received by the city in FY 24 for services rendered in 23 will be turned over to the county. So there's 50-50 only comes into play if we were in a negative balance.
You're not gonna have a positive fund balance if you still have debt. If you have a positive fund balance and your debt's paid off, you don't need to restore any money because your debt's paid from expenses occurred in 2023.
I'm sorry, say that again. I didn't follow that.
So you're making a point to the city, the Swea City will be in the black at the end of fiscal year 2023. Which means if you're in the black at fiscal year 2023, your debt from expenses from 2023 have been paid.
Not our bills.
Not the bills that
Our
come in
bills,
in July.
our bills will come in July,
Correct, but that's from fiscal year 2023.
and you may have some in August, so we want to make sure that if we have some that are in August, just, if they don't always come in, I mean, could be some that come in late. So all we want to do is make sure that all the bills for ambulance are paid.
And we
before
get
the
that, and that's what we
fund
want. It's just the
And the
letter states revenue.
problem is the way I haven't seen the revised version. The reason that was brought up is because the way it was written in the past, it wasn't worded that way. So we just wanted to make sure that we can at least pay all of our bills before the money is transferred over.
I understand the concern, but I guess I'd still go back to the fact there was a unanimous consensus to move forward with the language that was in there. And I was told earlier tonight that has not changed. So why are we rehashing the language that's in the agreement, which the substance has not changed, when there was unanimous consensus to move
I
forward?
just think there was some clarifications on some phrases. So like that defined service area, and now that you've done that,
And that last paragraph, and I questioned your attorney on that paragraph, stating the same thing, that we can't go by waiting for all bills to be collected. Because if somebody's on a payment plan, that could be years before that's cleaned up.
And
So I think that's confusion between
yeah, it is.
revenue and your expenses. We expect you to pay whole when money's turned over.
okay, so,
Okay,
so did that last paragraph get put in the new agreement
The last paragraph of
that you just read me about?
from your attorney's letter?
Yes.
No,
Okay, done.
no, I just wanted to bring that up so you guys were aware of that there was probably confusion there.
yeah.
I will get on the phone first thing in the morning on that lease and see where that's at.
So Kyle, the lease has got to go to the supervisors as well, correct?
We gotta have everything to operate. I mean,
Just to
we can't make, yeah, we can't,
First.
we can't make a decision on a partial.
Advisory council, then.
Okay, one at a time.
So we agree on this agreement, then it's got to go back to the advisory council, Phil? And then it's got, or got to go to attorneys, then advisory council, then supervisors? Or just the lease?
Just lease, unless we have a substantial change within this agreement.
So do you think they're gonna be okay with that lease?
I hate to speculate because there's so many moving parts, to go to an attorney, then an advisory, and then board of supervisors.
But a long time ago, when this process started,
My concern is we occupy 25% of the building. And we're being charged 50% of utilities, 50% of insurance costs. I know that's what it had been in the past with the two city entities. So whether that's an issue or not, I don't know.
I guess just from my perspective, I can't give an opinion on something I haven't seen, so, like, if there's.
yeah, no, I was wondering, because I know that was discussed a long.
Yeah, but I mean, just from what I heard, like the percentage split plus some on top of that, I would have to evaluate all that, I don't know.
Yeah, I was. If that had ever been discussed with them, I guess.
I guess the last thing that I have to add, back in November when we passed, the essential service voting Cassuth County, if you remember, there were 6 counties that passed it at the same time. Currently, there's one county, I believe it's Montgomery County. They passed the levy, and I could be wrong in the name, but they've actually told their EMS that they cannot open their doors until October 1st because they will not have any money to operate with until taxes come in. That's why we're trying to do these things, so we don't have to wait. The last thing I want to add is, at the last meeting, I was asked how much we expected Algona to be in the red at the end of the year. I threw a number out there. Now that we're in June and we've done more actuals and we have more actuals in, we're looking at being in the black, fair amount in the black. So they'll also be in the black at the end of the year.
You know what that number is, Bill? Just out of curiosity.
I just have a prediction. I do not have anything.
So they'll have a fund balance
Yes, we will have a positive fund balance at the end of the year.
that they're turning over.
In addition to future call revenue that has not been paid yet.
Which currently is about 300.
That was awesome.
Currently,
Proportionally, yes.
their accounts receivable right now is about 250,000 that's on the books. So that's where we're getting the money to begin operation, and then that will revert back. If anything happens that comes back, we're gonna give the money back that was put in plus future revenues that we have outstanding to help them get started back. So it's trying to protect both ways. So I just want to clarify that what I said last time turned out to be inaccurate, unintentional. So that's a good thing.
So I'm under the understanding we can't do anything tonight without finals from these attorneys. Am I correct? I understand, Wendy, you're gonna call Buchanan tomorrow.
First thing in the morning, first thing.
Just do
I can't remember what's on the agenda.
for next week.
24 hours notice, so as soon as we
It's
get
all-
something,
I mean.
as soon as we get something back from.
Can you maybe get on the horn with Todd, get these two together also?
It was-
I mean, I will get ahold of ours Monday, tomorrow morning, but
Attorney speaking to attorney, that's part of why we kind of sent the information that way and funneled it that way, because we thought it would be more effective as the attorneys talk with the attorney.
I think-
That's done. It doesn't affect.
I think a simple way to explain this is there's not an attorney in the state of Iowa that is fluent in an agreement like this. This is all new territory for them. So if they don't have correct information to the substance of the agreement, they're not going to understand how to correctly apply legal knowledge and legal background. So I guess between me and Phil, it's taken extensive conversations with our attorney and extensive discussions to make sure he understands what we need in legal form. So I don't know what kind of conversations you guys have. That may be part of the misunderstanding between attorneys. But as it's been already mentioned, getting attorneys to do stuff overnight is challenging, but it's been a lot of conversations. And I feel fairly confident in the final version of the agreement we have. City of Algona attorney has signed off, city council has signed off. I mean, there's a lot of pieces of this puzzle that have already been put in place.
Right, so.
Hospital signed everything on their end, so
Wednesday, yep.
I mean, we're worried. Because we've got EMS is in a position that we begin July 1st. We may not have all the pieces in place or everything completely finalized. When we started this project, we thought we had till July 1 of 2024. Found out we had July 1 of 2023, so things happen fast. And it's just tough to finish everything up correctly in that short of a time. Best we can.
Right. So I'm understanding on that. Your attorney sending our attorney the final,
I already sent Alicia the
okay,
final version I have.
but your attorney is not doing that then?
Wait,
Wait,
I don't know where it's lost between attorneys. I just know
you sent Alicia the Sway City one or the Algona?
Sway City
Yeah.
previously during the meeting, as I mentioned.
Last update I got from Scott was that he had reached out to Todd, if he hadn't heard anything. He then was able to make contact. They discussed, and he was assured that Todd was sending him over the final documents.
Okay,
And
let's double check,
he said he would send it to me,
I guess.
Yeah. my checks in the month, so.
When you call your attorney tomorrow, just clarify that last paragraph, so when he does get the new agreement, that doesn't throw up flags.
Gotcha.
And if he feels it's important to add something in there that says, you know, your debt's paid, I mean, I don't assume that if somebody did anything material, because that's the intent of the agreement.
What are we doing?
Well, I'll make the motion now. What? Go ahead.
No, man.
I don't wanna step on this.
Okay, oh, no, that's not, it's not that loss, it's what
I want the gallery to know, I'm just as frustrated with this as you guys are. We all are, I should say. We're all ready to be done with that. I thought we would have had a final agreement this meeting that we would have signed, but that's not on us.
Council just approved that it's done.
We can't do that, Cindy, because we haven't read it. And I've always been advised, don't go, you know, until your attorney says yes or no. So I guess I make a motion, we have a special meeting next week when we find out from these attorneys, and let's get this done. I know it's, nobody wants to hear that, but I'll sit here in silence all night long too.
Point of order. What are your procedures for calling a special meeting? Time frame?
24 hours.
24 hours,
That?
24 hours.
24 hours.
Yep.
Okay, that's all. If you recess the meeting, instead of adjourning the meeting, you could call that a meeting within 15 minutes. Take care of your business and it's done.
I know, but we can't because the attorney, we're waiting on the attorney.
As soon as the attorney calls you, you could reconvene your meeting in 15 minutes instead of waiting 24 hours to call a special meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Steve.
Robert's Rules of Order.
Got
In the book.
Okay. So for this item, I think I hear the motion to table this until the next. So a special council meeting, get the dollars that one.
That was my motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? All opposed? Randy, you vote? I didn't hear.
I mean, if we know tomorrow from the attorneys, which we can meet Friday, well.
24 hours.
So then
instead of adjourning the meeting tonight, we'll just go into recess.
No,
The motion on the table, or the motion on the table was to table the meeting. Meeting once we have more information. Can meet within 24 hours, all I have to do is have that.
well, someone would like, we need to get the document out to the council so they have time.
Well, yes,
So,
I mean, we can go through it this meeting if we have to.
I know, I'm gonna talk to him about the lease agreement, but
I mean, yeah, we still have to address the lease agreement. That has to go through our process as well in county side. But we have one meeting left in this month and
When is that?
next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
But the time to put stuff on the agenda technically was noon today for members of the public, noon tomorrow for supervisors. So to put something on the agenda we would have to have it on by noon tomorrow.
Chances of that happening are pretty slim. That's just gonna be,
Just telling you,
So-
our process.
I understand that. So, what's the alternative?
He's been working on it, maybe it's farther along than we know.
The alternative is next Tuesday.
As far as July, they don't meet again until July 11th.
The next meeting would be July 11th, as Phil said.
Turn your resignation.
I'd like to find somebody to go forward without that. It's no budget announcement. All right,
Is there any way we can move forward without the lease and figure that out at its later date?
For the county, won't go forward. They won't move forward without the lease.
They need all these.
They need all pieces of the puzzle.
So you're talking about 25%, right, Phil? Is that?
I'm just throwing numbers
No,
out.
no, yeah, I'm just trying to go back to.
I don't want to put words in the supervisor's mouth that they won't approve this without all the pieces. I'm just, from past experience, that's my prediction. We can put it on the agenda and see what they say. I mean, I don't want to,
I'm just saying.
I don't want to steer you and say that that's absolutely gonna happen, because that is not my vote or my decision.
I'm just trying to figure out something that you can get into your head of tomorrow that would still be on the supervisor meeting Tuesday.
I know one thing will happen for sure. Before they'll approve that lease agreement, is they're gonna say, I've reviewed this. I can guarantee you that one. They will not approve anything without Todd's,
They're gonna want to.
just like us.
just like you guys. So big thing's gonna come down there was Todd's schedule.
As an ambulance member, I just wanted to encourage us to move along as quickly as possible, because come July 1st and there's nothing in place and there's nobody up here from the county side. I'm already burned out. I'm not gonna be on call 24/7. I've already written my letter of resignation. Because I'm tired. I can't keep doing it.
Chris, we get it, we all get it, but you just, we're trying, we're not doing anything different than the county's doing. Phil just said they won't, without
I
time.
know, but something needs to move fast, because I'm done.
They won't sign it. All we're saying is, I got what our.
I mean, the three of us are on
I
call.
won't answer any more calls after midnight, July 1st.
So I'm just letting you know.
I guess-
There's times where there will not be an ambulance in Swea City, so.
No,
We need to,
Well, that's not gonna happen anyway, Randy. So, I took that as an ultimatum.
no, it's no ultimatum. I'm done.
just make a
July
good
1st.
effort that we're gonna.
Well, that's what I'm trying to
Until
do.
the next council meeting. That's all we can do at this
Right,
point.
because we can agree on this, our attorneys get it back to us tomorrow, and we all say yes, it's still gotta go to the supervisor, then don't we have until July 11th?
We made a mistake last month and waited a whole month
Right.
before we met again. Let's just not do that in the future.
Right, as soon as our attorneys, I'm all about, let's get together
Me too.
and get it done.
We haven't had anything to meet, that's the problem, is we haven't had anything to meet about
We-
it, we didn't get anything back.
Right, we should have stayed on our attorneys as well.
Yeah.
And it's both ways, I'm not saying you guys dropped it, it's Todd the same way, is we gotta keep on and get things done.
I would propose that this would have been a whole lot smoother. Had the county simply sat down around the table with the cities and said, hey, we need to put an agreement together. What do you think?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Yeah, exactly, let's move on past that.
All right, new business, discuss and take action with regard to replacing the concrete at the fire hall. We have 3 bids on that in your packet. They're all pretty close. I've got low construction for 18.6. Who's this? Greg Grody for 17.6 and Eric somebody for 22.3. This is, just a reminder, this is replace the apron concrete out front that has,
In front of all 3 doors.
yes. the whole thing,
the whole thing, to the highway.
yes. And we checked, there was some question about how deep it had to be when it connects to a state highway. And, all the bids covered that depth.
So is this money coming out of the fire department or
Again,
where's the money? Some of it from the fire department?
no, a third will come from fire, a third will come from city, and a third will come from Henry.
Really?
And that's gonna have to be,
Who asked that?
I did.
Yeah.
I don't
So
remember
a
the
third?
ambulance agreeing to that.
What?
So a third,
You can pay for it how, if you can pay for it however you want to pay for it. Typically in the past, costs are split. So you can pick-
Much like we did the library, split it with the library, with the air conditioning, with the this. I wrongly assumed that they'd like to split it three ways as all three entities use it.
so this would come out of the money that the ambulance fund, correct?
Yeah, a third of it, well, a third of it.
Right. 6,228 if we use those. I have a little problem with it coming out of ambulance because we kind of said at the last meeting in good faith that we're gonna turn this money over to the county. Yes, we will.
so put that on the back for now. Figure out what it's gonna do. What funds it's gonna come up with later if we do it.
I'm okay with approving it. It's just,
Unless.
I don't know if it's fair that we all agreed that we're gonna turn that money over. Now we're gonna spend money we promised. That's kind of out of good faith.
That's what I'm saying, because we all kind of, after we hashed it out 3 hours last month, excuse me. We all came to consensus for turning over that fund balance.
Right.
To help me.
And I get it, the ambulance breaks, or we got bills to pay, I get that, but this is kind of a bill that we just come up with that.
No, it's been talked about for the last 2 months.
Yeah, it's been talked about, but now all of a sudden, now it's coming up. Should have been, we should have did it 2 months ago before we promised the county.
Phil, what do you need?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Have you guys considered using ARPA money? You know, we've used almost 250,000-300,000 of county money, ARPA money to go towards EMS. That would be an option to use city ARPA funds towards this project.
Yeah.
Yes, we talked about doing, that's what we essentially have that earmarked for doing with all our water and sewer lines, because we don't know where those all are.
By council.
The
The original thought was to do some survey and then find out where water lines.
And we have issues with that.
How much ARPA money did you get?
75, somewhere.
75,000.
I believe that has to be allocated by the end of.
Randy, thoughts?
Just like I said earlier, there's 8 vehicles in that shed over there. 2 of them is ambulance, that's 25%. Now you want 33% of the expense. From 25% of the value.
I think you should probably consider usage.
So you're saying it'd be all right to come out of ambulance fund if it was just $2,500 instead of $3,300?
Right.
Well,
That's still.
okay, well,
I mean, you said something earlier about tabling that out, how draft would have a better idea how. I mean, if it needs to be done, doesn't need to be done, what his thoughts are, I guess.
And that's John.
It's deteriorating, but it's nothing that's gonna hinder us from getting it out, so. Table it. But why?
Well, I'm all for fixing it. We just gotta figure out how we're gonna pay, or who's gonna pay for it.
Should buy something.
Well, I just don't feel right taking that third of that out of the ambulance fund.
Not after we reduce them all.
I guess. Yeah. Well, I don't know if I'm doing this right, but I'll make a motion that we replace the concrete. And discuss how we're paying for it at next month's meeting. I don't know what else, maybe I'm saying it wrong, I don't know. I agree with fixing it, we gotta keep doing it 100%. Just like the doors on the fire hall and everything else,
It's been that way 40 years.
the concrete has.
Yeah. It's not been bad for 40 years. What I'm saying is the concrete's been there for 40 years.
Yeah,
Now all of a sudden we gotta change it. Why don't we do part of it this year? Part of it next year. You can't do it all at once anyway, because you gotta be able to get a fire truck out that door, sure, no matter when.
Yeah, but you could do it in the same week and year, the same 2-week time frame. I mean, if we do it half now and half next year, concrete price could double in price, or we could end up paying just as much for half of it as the whole thing would cost us now.
I say we table it to the next month. We'll figure out how we're gonna do it,
So Barry's motion was replace the concrete and discuss that next month's meeting.
minus. the-
Discuss what at next month's bill. Clarify that.
Discuss how we're gonna pay for it.
Something here, minus the ambulance fund part. I'm.
Okay, yeah, and part of that motion that the ambulance, it doesn't come out of the ambulance fund.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Are you opposed? Take action for outdoor liquor license for Pub 307 Bar and Grill pending payment and paperwork.
Where's that at?
This would be the
Country.
purchasers of the Country Inn.
I'll make the motion to approve it. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Take action with regard to the pool plunge pledge. I need your help on this one. The meeting